Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the story behind the data. And today we are diving into Apple's latest, and I mean truly massive earnings report to see what in the world is driving their incredible success. Okay, let's kick things off with this quote from Apple CEO Tim Cook, because it just perfectly captures the whole story this quarter. The keyword here is staggering, and you know what? As we're about to see, that might even be an understatement. So just how staggering are we talking about? Let's get right into the top-line numbers that pretty much shocked the market. Get this, in just one single 3-month period, Apple pulled in almost $144 billion. I mean, think about that for a second. That's more than the entire annual GDP of a lot of countries. And Apple did it in just one quarter. Wow. That massive number translates to a 16% surge in sales compared to the exact same time last year. Now, for a company this huge, getting double-digit growth like this is insanely difficult to do. And honestly, it's a figure that took a lot of analysts completely by surprise. And look, this wasn't just a case of slightly baiting expectations. They blew them out of the water. What's so interesting here is that it wasn't just the main revenue number. They beat estimates on earnings per share and even improved their gross margin, which means they were actually making more profit on every single dollar of sales. So, you have to ask, what was the engine behind all this? Well, the answer couldn't be clearer. It all comes back to their flagship product, the iPhone. This chart right here tells the whole story. Analysts were already predicting really strong iPhone sales, right around $78.6 billion. But then Apple comes in and delivers over $85 billion. That is a nearly $7 billion surprise. It's a massive overperformance that was clearly driven by that staggering demand for the new models. So what that means is you're looking at a 23% jump in iPhone revenue year over year. And this is a really big deal because it's a complete reversal from the holiday quarter last year when iPhone sales had actually dipped a little bit. This year, they didn't just recover, they absolutely exploded. Now, all these new iPhones being sold, they all feed into this one number that Wall Street is obsessed with, the active install base. It's just a fancy way of saying the total count of Apple devices actually being used out in the world. And why does it matter so much? Because every single one of those devices is a potential customer for Apple's super profitable services. Think iCloud, Apple TV+, the App Store. It is the foundation for their entire ecosystem. And because of this sales boom, that number has now hit a new all-time record, 2.5 billion active devices. That is a massive captive audience just waiting to subscribe or buy apps. It signals a huge runway for future growth, especially in those high-margin services that many people think are Apple's next trillion-dollar opportunity. But the story doesn't stop there. Another huge piece of the puzzle this quarter happened in one very specific and usually very tough market, Greater China. Apple's strategy in China was basically this powerful 1-2 punch. First, they got a record number of their existing Chinese customers, the upgraders, to buy the new model. And then, at the exact same time, they saw double-digit growth in switchers. These are people who ditched their Android phones to join the Apple ecosystem. Winning on both of those fronts in China is a huge deal. And here's the kicker. This incredible success wasn't just a surprise to Wall Street. It was a surprise to Apple itself. Tim Cook basically admitted that the sales surge in China was way bigger than even they expected. And he made it clear that it was all product-driven. People just really wanted the new iPhones. But okay, while the iPhone was the undisputed star of the show, the story for Apple's other products was, well, a little more of a mixed bag. This slide right here really illustrates that complexity perfectly. You can see the iPad had a solid quarter, and their massive services business hit its targets. But both the Mac and the wearables category, that's the Apple Watch and AirPods, they actually fell short of what Wall Street was hoping for. It just goes to show you that even in a blockbuster quarter, not everything can be a runaway hit. So a record-breaking quarter like this naturally leads to the big question, what comes next? I mean, keeping up this kind of momentum is incredibly hard, and Apple is definitely staring down some significant challenges on the horizon. Looking ahead, it seems like Apple is facing two major and very interconnected challenges. On one hand, you've got their massive ambitions in artificial intelligence, and on the other, you have the hard physical realities of the global supply chain. This really highlights a key tension for Apple. They are pouring more and more money into R&D, and their own finance chief says AI is going to require incremental investment. But at the exact same time,
Tim Cook is admitting that the company is facing shortages for the very advanced chips and memory they need to power that AI, with memory prices in particular increasing significantly.
And that right there leaves us with a central question for Apple's next chapter. After a quarter that was, yes, staggering and proved that demand for their products is stronger than ever, their future now really hinges on a race. As they push hard into the incredibly hungry world of AI, can they build that future faster than rising costs and supply shortages can slow them down? That's the billion-dollar question.